Hey, welcome back. This is Shah, back with another child support story time. If it's your first time to my channel, child support story time is just me remembering my experiences working at a child support agency. And if you haven't seen it, check out my first child support story time, which is about a crafty surgeon who manages to get a very hefty amount of alimony and child support reduced to a paltry sum. And if you want to know how he did that, be sure to check out child support story time number 1 on my channel. Today's story is a little different and really doesn't involve anyone with a lot of money, but more so someone probably like you and me, unless you're very well to do. But he was a man of pretty average income and normal means. But what made him special was that he didn't have just one case in our office. He had about 14, meaning that this one man had not one baby mama, not two baby mamas, not three, but 14 baby mamas. And more than 14 kids, because with some of those women he had more than one child with. So this guy got around. And because of that, he was pretty legendary in the office. I first saw the case when I started there because my trainer, she had been assigned the case before she became a trainer, and she would share this case with us because it was one of those cases that, because of this guy's situation, was so complex, and it lended itself to being a good training. I mean, aside from the, WTF factor, it's one of these guys' cases out of the 14 would be on one part of the life cycle or a different part of the life cycle throughout the life cycle of a child support case. So it had a lot of lessons packed in them. And then when I became a trainer, I would sometimes use that case to show the students. Well, the students, they weren't kids, they're grown adults, but the trainees basically. And it was always just one of those cases where it's just like, wow, like how did that happen? How did one man convince 14 different women to make all these kids with him? And I always kind of wondered that too, and thought like, man, I mean, did woman number 12 know about his past or know kind of what she was getting roped into in this situation? I'd like to think some of them probably not. Then again, but did he do anything illegal? No, he did not do anything illegal. This was all perfectly, within the bounds of the law. And I mean, it's an option. I used to call this going nuclear, by the way. And the reason I'd see other cases like this in the office. I'd see some people with 7 cases, 6 cases, but this guy was just significant because he had 14 of them. And I used to see so many cases, and even someone having one kid in just like a bad situation could end up paying a lot of money. And 2 kids, it can take a lot of money from a guy. It could be a tough thing to deal with for people. I saw a lot of people that were unable to pay their child support. But this guy had, God, at least 16 kids. It was for sure more than that. I just can't remember exactly all the different amounts of kids on each of the cases. And he just kept going after the first kid, the second kid, the third kid. And I would call this going nuclear because, as a child support agency, we have so many of these like annoying enforcement actions. We'll take away your passport. We'll levy your bank accounts. We'll take away your driver's license. We'll take away your bar license. We'll take away your fishing license. We'll put a lien on your parents' home, even though it's not even in your name, but we think you might inherit it. We'll intercept your gambling winnings. Tax returns. There was just a ton of stuff. You'll get thrown in jail for contempt, all kinds of things if you weren't paying. And, I used to think guys would just get fed up, and what they would do is say, you know what, screw you, take this system. I'm just going to keep getting women pregnant. And I'm just going to keep doing it. And what would end up happening to the orders is every time a new kid was born and added, into this structure of cases, all the other cases would need to be adjusted. So this guy's case was really legendary because anybody who was assigned this guy's case, if it was in your caseload, it would be broken up by like alphabetical from the last name. So there would be like one unlucky person who has to deal with this. And if one thing changed on one case, like maybe the oldest kid emancipated, or there was a new kid born, or something happened, and one case needed to be modified, it would ripple out to all the other 14 cases. So we would have to then send the other 13 cases into court to get them modified so everything could kind of balance out. And by the time you had so many cases, a lot of these child support orders, because he didn't make a lot of money. I mean, he worked like a normal job. I think he was at the state or something like that. I can't remember. He just had like a normal guy office job. And a lot of these orders, because you have to split this guy's paycheck amongst, 16 or more kids. And I mean, some of these women will be getting like $60 a month, $30 a month. And we're talking zero custody, like they got full custody. And that's just what it was. So that's why I kind of think he, probably wasn't entirely forthright with the new ladies he brought onto the train, if you know what I'm saying. Because I just don't know why anyone would sign up for that deal of having someone's 14th kid. And, if you end up needing child support from this guy, you're only going to get like $60 a month. And that's just what it was going to be. Another thing that was really funny about this guy's case, and I remember this from my trainer, the one who first, showed it to even me as a trainee, but she okay, so a lot of the ladies in the office were like, who is this guy? Like, what does he look like? And I remember her telling me that on one of these days where all these 14 cases need to get sent to the court, or however many of them were getting sent to Sacramento, because they weren't all in Sacramento. I mean, if one was in LA, if one was here, one was there, or depending on where all the baby mamas were, but a lot of them were in Sacramento. And a group of the women that worked at the child support office all decided to go across the street, because the courthouse was right across the street, separate from our agency, but the orders were made there. And on the day of the court hearing, this was before Zoom, like before COVID, so it would be in person. If we had Zoom during these, that would be hilarious, because you would just see this guy with like 14 baby moms all tuned in trying to get this figured out. But all these ladies went across the street just to see what this guy looked like, because they're like, what is there anything special about this guy? How's he doing this? And I never saw him in person myself, but I just remember, my trainer saying, oh, he's not that special. There's nothing that special about him. I don't know if she was just kind of, lightly hating on the guy. Maybe he was special. I don't know, but apparently he was a pretty normal guy. So that should give a lot of us average people hope out there. If you're 5'9" or below and you don't make a lot of money, you can still have 16 kids out here with 14 different women. That's an option. But yeah, I always just thought it was kind of funny that I always just imagine all these ladies, caseworkers, walking across the street just to get a glimpse of this guy. But the other thing that was also funny about that was the fact that like all 14 moms would be, well, I don't even know. It was at least 7 to 10 of them, just depending on who's in the county, who's not, and who really would show up. But you would have a lot of these moms on these cases go to court that day. So they would all see each other, and that's kind of another lesson to learn, is like, if you get involved in this system, a lot of your business, your private family business, then becomes public. So it's there for the court, for the public to see. That must be like a dream, just seeing all the women you've ever been with all in the same room together. But another thing I remember hearing is that there was a Starbucks like right outside in the parking lot, and after the hearing or whatever, a lot of these ladies would just kind of get together and go get coffee after, and I guess talk. And I don't know, compare notes or something. Maybe they became friends. Maybe genuine friendships sprouted out of this because they all kind of went through the same thing together, I guess. And I don't want to just demonize the guy, you know, or anything like that. I also saw cases with women that had multiple baby daddies. Some of them pretty significant. Now the difference there is that if one woman has a kid with 5 guys, she can get a lot of child support because she gets a pretty decent chunk from this guy's income, assuming he doesn't have other kids that he's already paying for. But you could have 5 separate orders, you know, all coming to you. But in the case of the guy, where he has, you know, 16 kids and 14 women are trying to get money out of this guy who has a normal job, I mean, they're not going to get more than, you know, I'd be surprised if they'd got over $100. They'd be lucky, but most of them are getting less than that, 60, 30, 12. But one thing about this guy, and I remember, is that he was in a crazy, like, amount of debt. This was, like, if you looked at his accounts, there was just, it was never going away. An interest build each month. Like, some of them he owed 100 grand on, some of them he owed this, because the older kids, before the younger kids were there, he would have been paying higher amounts for them. And as he could not pay them, they would just start to roll over and roll over and roll over. So this guy owed hundreds of thousands of dollars in back pay, and you know, we knew it was never going to get paid off. It's mathematically impossible. And what sucks about that for him is that once you're in arrears like that, you know, our office is just going to be there like your 4th grade teacher, just kind of making sure you don't have any fun. You're not going to be able to go overseas because you can't renew your passport. You know, especially if you got back pay and arrears and you're not paying any kind of payments, your licenses will get suspended, just, you know, all kinds of things. So, and again, child support's not bankruptable, right? It's kind of like student loan debt or IRS debt. Child support's like the one you don't want to mess with. But hey, listen, if you already got like 3 kids and there's nothing you can do about it, then I guess you might as well have 16. That's what this guy did. It's not illegal, but he did it. So yeah, that's a case that I'll always remember. You know, it just stuck out to me. And just this relatively normal guy who managed to have 16 kids. I guess the reason I really think about it is because there's so many of us out here who have like no kids, you know, and you work hard, you pay taxes, you do what you got to do, follow the rules. And most people, you know, couples even are like, man, it costs a lot of money to have kids out here. And some of them even forego that, or maybe they just have 1 kid or something. And then there's this guy who has like 16 kids and he's just like, whatever, you know what I mean? So that's an option. And hey, listen, maybe it's an even trade. I mean, you got 16 kids out here. I mean, I don't know if he was seeing all these kids or spending a lot of time with them. A lot of them did have 0 custody on the calculation. So, you know, I mean, he could have been seeing them in real life. Obviously, we can't monitor that. But on books, it didn't look like he had, you know, much custody of them. So, I mean, maybe some of them, but you can't, with all these kids, I don't know. Maybe. But there's a little part of me that respects him for having, I don't know. There's a little part of me that's like, the little primitive kind of caveman brain that's in me, the lizard brain is like, wow, 16 kids. It's a prolific gentleman right there. So that's an option. I call that the nuclear option. But anyways, yeah, that's my child support story time. So if you got an uncle like this, or if that's you, or this is your daddy, maybe leave a comment down below and let us know what that's been like for you. Hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, and I'll get some more child support story time videos amongst other videos to you guys. So if you enjoyed this video, appreciate the support, and I'll see you on the next one.